ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಯಶೋಧ ಕೆ.ಬಿ. ನಾನು ಕೆಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಲೆಕ್ಚರರ್ ಆಗಿ ಬಾಲಕಿಯರ ಪದವಿ ಪೂರ್ವ ಕಾಲೇಜು ನ್ಯೂಟೌನ್ ಭದ್ರಾವತಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಹಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪೇಪರ್ 4ರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಂತಹ ಕೆಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ನ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ನಂಬರ್ 24 to 46 you can find the chemistry questions. So coming to the very first question number 24. Which among the following reactions can be used to prepare methane? So here they have given 4 options: Woods reaction, coal-based electrolysis, decarboxylation of sodium acetate, catalytic hydrogenation of ethane. So here the preparation of alkanes we have studied in the first PUC chapter hydrocarbon chapter alli different methods of alkanes na ನಾವು ಓದಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ. So here whatever the 4 options they have given here, that is the Woods reaction, coal-based electrolysis, decarboxylation, catalytic hydrogenations. So from all these 4 methods we can prepare alkanes, but particularly they have asked about preparation of methane. So carefully we have to analyze these 4 reactions, then only we can arrive at the answer. So coming to the coal-based electrolysis process. So here sodium salts of carboxylic acids on electrolysis, they are going to give alkanes. Then alkenes, that means the compounds containing double bond, on catalytic hydrogenation, once again they are going to form alkanes. Then coming to the Woods reactions, here alkyl halide on reaction with sodium in dry ether, so we are going to get alkanes here. And coming to the decarboxylation, that means sodium salts of carboxylic acids on heating with calcium oxide and sodium hydroxide, we call this one as soda lime, this mixture as soda lime. On heating with soda lime, sodium carbonate is removed and we are going to get alkanes. So decarboxylation means removal of carbon dioxide. So here we can see that carbon dioxide is being removed from this compound and we are getting alkane. Okay, so here we want particularly methane. Let us analyze these reactions now. If you take Woods reactions, you can see that minimum 2 carbon compound containing minimum 2 carbon is obtained. So here IR alkanes are prepared. To represent a double bond, we need obviously we need 2 carbon atoms. So here also in the product minimum 2 carbons will be there. On electrolysis also you can see that minimum 2 carbons are there. But methane is a very simple molecule containing only 1 carbon. So the correct option over here, if you analyze, decarboxylation of sodium salts of carboxylic acid, this is the only method by which we can prepare the methane. So option C is the correct answer. Then coming to the question number 25, the CC bond length of ethane, ethene, ethine and benzene follows the order. So they are given 4 molecules over here and we have to arrange them based on their bond length. And if you look at the options over here, they have arranged these molecules in the decreasing order. That means we must look for that option in which molecules are arranged in the decreasing order of their bond length. So ethane is nothing but the very first molecule ethane they have given over here. It is an alkane. So it is a molecule containing single bonds. We know that whenever a molecule undergoes molecule contains single bond, it is sp3 hybridized and its bond length will be 154 picometer. If it is ethene, then it is sp2 hybridized, that time carbon bond length will be 133 picometer. Ethine, it is going to be sp hybridized and its bond length is going to be 120 picometer. But if you take benzene here benzene is also sp2 hybridized, but its bond length is not 133. Instead it is in between single and double bond, that is 139, because of the resonance. Resonance means you know that there is continuous shifting of double bond is there. So because of that, what happens, bond length is going to be in between single and double bond. So that's why its value is 139. So like that, based on the hybridization and the values, if you observe carefully, so 154 comes first, then 139, 133 and 120. So the correct option is option C. Ethane has got longer bond length, and then benzene, then ethene, then ethine. So let us move on to the next question, that is question number 26. In which of the following compounds oxygen has fractional oxidation number? So KO2, O2F2, OF2 and sodium peroxide. So if you, this question looks very simple, but there is lot of information in this one. Okay. So let us analyze one by one. KO2 is nothing but it's a superoxide. Here, in general what we find is that oxygen common oxidation state is -2. So here that means single oxygen carries 2 negative charge, but here 2 oxygen is going to carry 1 negative charge. And if you calculate what is going to be the oxidation state of one single oxygen over here, it will come around -1/2. From 2 oxygen it is -1. Obviously for single oxygen it is going to be -1/2. O2F2 and OF2. In these two compounds, okay, only in these two compounds oxygen carries positive oxidation state. In all other compounds, you will find that oxygen will exhibit only the negative oxidation state, but only in these two compounds it is going to exhibit positive oxidation state. In O2F2 oxygen carries +1 positive charge, +1 charge, then OF2 it carries +2 charge. Okay, then coming to the peroxide Na2O2. In case of peroxides, oxygen carries, so I have written +1 over here, actually it has to be -1. Okay, now so now if you compare all this, here it is minus. Okay, so if you compare the oxidation state over here, they have asked for the fractional oxidation state. So obviously you can see that in option A, oxygen carries -1/2, that is the fractional oxidation state. So option A is the correct. So let us move on to the next question, that is question number 27. Which of the following reactions is an example for disproportionate redox reactions? And they have given 4 options over here. So let us look at the question what they have asked here. They have asked about the disproportionate redox reaction. What do you mean by disproportionate redox reaction? Means the element in a particular compound, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ರಿಯಾಕ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿನಿಮಮ್ 2 ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಅದೇ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟಿನ 2 ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬಂದಿರಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆನಾ? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಗಿವ್ 2 products, and in one of the product it should have lower oxidation state, and in the other product it should have higher oxidation state. ಆ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ನ 2 ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಹೈಯರ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಟೇಕ್ ದೀಸ್ 4 reactions and if you analyze, so here option C and 4 if you take, that is very simple reactions. Methane on combustion gives carbon dioxide and water, that is combustion. Usually in case of combustion reactions, very rarely we find this change in the oxidation state. And water, it is a decomposition reaction, H2 and O2. Here what happens means here oxygen is there, but here in the product, in none of the product the same element is present, so this is also not possible. If you take silver nitrate and HCl, again we have got 2 products, but common elements is not there. Whereas if you take hydrogen peroxide, it will decompose to give water and oxygen. Now you can see that in both the products oxygen is common, one element has to be common. And if you find the oxidation state of that particular element, in the beginning it is -1, after the in the one of the product it is -2, -1 ginta -2 it is a lower value, and then in the other product it is 0, and minus compared to -1, 0 is bigger number. So ಒಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಇದೆ, ಲೋಯರ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೇಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ and higher oxidation state. So option B is the correct answer. Coming to the question number 28. Which of the following describes a system that cannot be spontaneous? So here they have given 4 options here. Delta H naught is positive and delta S naught is negative, and delta H is negative, delta S is negative, delta H is positive, delta S is positive, and delta H is negative and delta S is positive. So here they have asked in which of the following the process cannot be spontaneous. So first we have to analyze this equation. What is the condition for spontaneity of a reaction? So that is nothing but based on the Gibbs equation we can analyze. Delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S. Whenever delta G comes negative, only then the process is going to be spontaneous. Now if you keep on applying these conditions in the here over in the equation, for example, let us take the first one. When delta H is positive, okay, this is the positive value it is going to be. And when delta S is negative, so if you substitute negative over here, minus into minus, it will become plus. So whatever might be the value, here always whenever delta H is positive and delta S is negative, we are going to get always a positive value. That's why it is going to be non-spontaneous. That means it is not going to be a spontaneous process. Whereas all other conditions, if you apply, you can find that in one or the other conditions they are going to be negative over here. But here, in case of first option, that means when delta H is positive and delta S is negative, the process, that is the delta G value, always it is going to be a positive. Sorry, always it is going to be spontaneous. That's why the process is non-spontaneous when delta G is positive and delta S is negative. So option A is the correct answer. So coming to the question number 29. 2 moles of an ideal gas is expanded isothermally reversibly from 1 liter to 10 liter at 300 Kelvin. The enthalpy change for the process is, so 11.4 minus 11.40, 4.8 kilojoules. This question is little bit tricky. So what we do is that as soon as we look at the data they have given here, it is expanding isothermally from 1 liter to 10 liter and 300 Kelvin. We'll start calculating work done here. But if you observe the question carefully, the enthalpy change they have asked. So we have to calculate enthalpy change, and especially in thermodynamics, before doing any calculations or before arriving at the answer, please look at the condition of the reaction, whether they are carrying out at constant temperature or constant pressure or constant volume. That one you have to first find out. Only then you are going to analyze the question. So enthalpy change for isothermal process. So we know that since there is not going to be any change in isothermal, means there is not going to be any change in the temperature. Okay, so temperature is going to remain constant. Then whenever the temperature remains constant, change in enthalpy and change in internal energy both are going to be zero. So here they have given symbol here. To calculate this one we need more time actually. Okay, in the entrance exam and all, they will try to give data in such a way that the calculation has to be simple, but here calculations is going to be a little bit tricky. That's why you have to look at the questions carefully so that we can analyze. There is no need of calculations over here. So here you can find that the enthalpy change for the process in isothermal condition is zero. No calculations at all. Okay. Since the enthalpy change they have asked, here option C is the correct answer. Then question number 30. Oxidation state of Mn in MnO4 2 minus MnO2, Mn2O3 are respectively. So in the redox chapter, once again we know how to calculate the redox, this one, oxidation state of the each element in the given compound. After applying those rules and after calculating, we find that manganese carries plus 6 charge in MnO4 2 minus. Here they have not asked for MnO4 minus, here MnO4 2 minus. Then in MnO2 it carries plus 4 and in Mn2O3 it is plus 3. So in whatever order they have given the compounds over here, in the same order you have to look for the numbers also. Okay, MnO4 2 minus plus 6, MnO2 plus 4 and plus 3. So 6, 4, 3. In which option we are going to get? In option C. Next, question number 32. Which among the following is not aromatic? So they have given four compounds over here and they are asking us to find out which one is not aromatic. In the first PU hydrocarbon chapter, we have after towards the end of the chapter we have studied about the aromaticity. After like once we start with the preparation and properties of benzene, there will come across aromaticity, and they have given the conditions for that one. So here, before going to analyze which one is aromatic and non-aromatic, we have to have an idea about what are the conditions that one compound has to satisfy to be aromatic. So in your textbook they have given clearly the conditions for aromaticity. The first one, they have to be cyclic compounds, and we have got cyclic compounds over here. They have to be planar. Of course, each carbon is sp2 hybridized, and we are going to get planar carbons, planar molecules. It has to be fully conjugated. That means conjugation means alternative single double bond must be there. Conjugation andre single double ಆತರ alternative ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. Then they must follow Akker's rule. 4n plus 2 pi electrons it should have. So ಈ ಒಂದು ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾನ ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ n ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ it is just integer. 0, 1, 2, 3, you have to substitute those values. And if, for example, if you substitute 0, we are going to get 2. If you substitute 2, substitute 1, we are going to get it as 6. So these many pi electrons, if it is present, then it is going to be aromatic. Now let us start analyzing that one. First one. So here one double bond indicates 2 electrons, and here 2 double bonds are there. So 2 into 2, 4. But here oxygen carries lone pair electrons. So now you can count 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 2, 6. So 6 electrons are there. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pi bonds into 2, 12 pi electrons. Here 1, 2, 3. So 3 pi bonds into 2, 6 pi electrons. And here only 2 pi bonds are there, and there are no lone pair also. So here 2 into 2, 4 pi electrons. So according to this rule, I can start with 2, or then I will move on to the 6. There is no 4. The compounds containing 4 pi electrons, they are not going to be aromatic according to this rule. So here there is a breakage of conjugation, and also they are not obeying Akker's rule. So option D is the one which is not aromatic. Question number 33. For an electrophilic substitution, which of the following is deactivating and ortho and para directing when attached to benzene ring? This is one of the interesting question. So there we are in the hydrocarbon chapter, we'll come to know about the ortho, para and meta directing groups. So now not only that, sometimes what happens, some of the molecules, they are going to deactivate. That means here those group of atoms are those atoms which donate electrons to the benzene ring. They are going to be ortho and para directing. That means they are activating the ring. And the one with which withdraws the electrons, that is going to be meta directing. That one you have to remember. The one which donates electrons is ortho and para, and the one which withdraws the electrons is going to be meta directing group. So, but here they are asking the one which is deactivating. It should be electron withdrawing as well as electron donating. So here in the ortho para directing groups examples that they have given in your textbook. So we start from oxygen, OH, that is O minus here, not double bonded oxygen. If double bonded oxygen comes, if it is a different story. Then OH hydroxyl groups, then this one alkoxy groups, carboxyl group, all those things they have given here. So these are all electron donating in nature. So in that one, chlorine is also electron donating, but here it is deactivating. What does it do is mean it is going to donate electrons as well as it is going to withdraw the electrons. Because of its electronegativity property, it is going to withdraw the electrons, deactivating group. But at the same time, since it is attached to the sp2 hybridized carbon in the benzene, that means that is going to be more electronegative, and it is going to be ortho para directing also. So both deactivating but ortho and para directing group means chlorine is the correct option, option D. If you take CN, COH and all, so they got multiple bonds over here, and they are meta directing. You can refer the textbook, okay? There they have given the correct explanation over there. So here one thing you have to remember, chlorine is the one which is deactivating as well as ortho and para directing group. Option D is the correct answer. Now coming to the question number 34. Match the hydrocarbons in column 1 with the boiling points given in column 2. They have given two columns over here, and in the first column they have given the hydrocarbons, and in the second column they have given you the boiling points. So, and then which of the following option is going to be the correct matching of column 1 and column 2, we have to find out. So match the type of problem is the common type of problem that is asked in almost all entrance examinations, right? So now for which compound they have asked here? N-pentane, isopentane, neopentane, and then they are given the boiling points here. So here in general, boiling point increases with the molar mass. For example, compared to methane, ethane has got more boiling point. Compared to ethane, propane has got more boiling point because of the increase in the surface as well as the increase in the molar mass or the mass of the compound. But here you can see that in all the three options we have got only pentane. Okay, that means their molar mass is same. Then how we are going to find out the change in the boiling point means, here you have to remember one thing: as the branching in the carbon chain increases, boiling point decreases. Here you can see that all the 5 carbon atoms in one line, okay, they are forming a linear chain. Here one branch you can observe, here 2 to 3 more branches are formed. So more and more branching, boiling point decreases. That means pentane should have high boiling point. There is no need to add the values here. Just comparison. Among these three, which one has got higher boiling point? Which one is the higher value? 309. So N-pentane is going to have higher boiling point. Then isopentane, that is one branch, with one branch is going to have the next high boiling point. Then neopentane, so 282.5, that is the option, it is going to, that is neopentane is going to have 282.5 Kelvin, lower value. So if you compare like that, for first one it should be B, for second one it is C, and for the last one it is A. So option C is the correct answer. So now coming to the next question, question number 35. Here they are asking us to find out major product B in the above reaction. Okay, here they will give you the series of conversions and they will ask you to find out the product. So now here what you can see is that these are the simple conversion based on the whatever the reactions you have studied. They will combine 2 to 3 process and they will ask. Okay, it's nothing like that something extra questions from out of the syllabus they are going to ask. No, it is within the textbook, whatever you have studied, based on that conversions only they are going to ask. So here you can see that the molecule they have taken is propene. First they are adding hydrogen bromide, so we are going to get A. Then it is treated with sodium in dry ether, we are going to get B. Okay na? So now first ಒಂದೊಂದೇ step na analyze ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಬರೋಣ. Propene on reaction with hydrogen bromide. Okay, we know that we have studied this reaction. It undergoes addition reaction and there is no peroxide here. So unsymmetrical reagent, whenever it is added to unsymmetrical alkene, we have to apply Markovnikov's rule. Hydrogen will go to that carbon which has double bonded carbon which has more number of hydrogen, and bromine will go to that carbon which has it must be double bonded which has lesser number of hydrogen. So based on that rule we are going to get 2-bromopropane as the major product, and after getting that one, then we are treating that one in sodium in dry ether. Okay, so sodium metal, once it comes, it is understood it is Wurtz reaction. So once your Wurtz reaction is carried out, you are going to get 2,3 dimethyl butane. So here 2 bromines will go away with sodium and these two alkyl groups will get linked, forming higher alkanes. So here after doing all the conversions, we can see that 2,3 dimethyl butane is the correct answer. So option A is the correct answer. Coming to the question number 36, coal-based electrolysis process. Okay, so takes place via nucleophilic substitution, electrophilic, free radical mechanism and electrophilic substitution reaction. So you have to look at the mechanism of the reaction. Mechanism means you have to have an idea about the detailed study of the reaction. One stepwise we have to observe. So in the textbook they have given on the electrolysis what are the process that is taking place near anode and what are the process that is going to take place near cathode. If you observe anode, first what happens? this sodium acetate gets splitted into acetate ion and sodium ion. Acetate matte sodium agutte. That acetate will go to the anode and it will lose 2 electron, and you can see that oxygen is carrying a single electron here and there is no charge, and such species we call it as odd number of electrons. The such species we call it as free radical. So here nowhere plus we have got, nowhere minus on the this one reactant, this one intermediate we can see. That's why here free radical mechanism is followed. Option C is the correct answer. Coming to the question number 37. If enthalpies of formation of methane, carbon dioxide and water at 25 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure is 74.2 minus 394 minus 286 kilojoules per mole respectively, then enthalpy of combustion of methane will be. So here they have given you the values of formation of different compounds over here. They are asking us to find out combustion of methane. So this is the common type of problem they are going to ask, and it is the easy one to solve. Okay, some basic steps if you follow, it is very easy to get the answer. So if you take combustion of methane, so here combustion means what? The burning of the substance in presence of oxygen. We know that methane is an organic compound. On combustion it forms carbon dioxide and water. So I want enthalpy for this process. So now in general, delta H of a reaction is given by enthalpy of the product minus enthalpy of the reactant. So now, so here if you take enthalpy of the product and enthalpy of the reactant, that means here we should know the enthalpy of the formation of the products, enthalpy of the formation of the reactants, add and subtract, you are going to get enthalpy of the process. Now, enthalpy of this combustion is given by, what are the products we have got here? Carbon dioxide and water. So enthalpy of formation of carbon dioxide, enthalpy of formation of water if you have to consider, and then you should not to forget about the coefficients here. Carbon dioxide is only one molecule, so we have written only 1 here. But for water we have to multiply with 2 because coefficient over here is 2. Then for methane, okay, formation of methane, single molecule, okay, fine. Then for oxygen, so usually for the element in the pure form if you take, we are not going to consider the enthalpy of formation. Their formation is going to be 0. Now whatever the data, according to the data they have given, you are going to substitute. For carbon dioxide minus 394, for water 2 times of 286, then for methane minus 74.2. So by substituting and on adding, we are going to get 891.8 kilojoules of energy, that is the enthalpy. Therefore the correct option is A. It's here, it is negative. Okay, just don't look at the numbers, along with the sign you have to consider. Then the question number 38. The heat evolved in the combustion of methane is given by the following equation. Okay, they have given you the equation, and then how many grams of methane would be required to produce 445.15 kilojoules of heat of combustion. Okay na? So equation prakara ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, let us analyze the equation. Methane, for which compound they have asked? Methane. Now in this equation, how many moles of methane is there? Only 1 mole. What is the molar mass of methane? 16 gram. That means when 16 gram of methane is combusted, I am going to get 890.3 kilojoules of energy. So 890 kilojoules of heat ಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ 16 grams ತಗೋಬೇಕು. So whatever the value they have given, 445.15 kilojoules of heat means how much to be taken. So on calculation, which is a direct problem, simple mathematics. So 8 grams we are going to get. That's why option B is the correct answer. For 39th question. 1,2-dichloroethane on heating with alcoholic potash followed by sodamide gives. Okay, it's a tricky question now. Let us observe carefully. 1,2-dichloroethane on heating with alcoholic potash. Okay, so once we heat this one, alcoholic potash, whenever we make use of alcoholic potash, here dehydrohalogenation takes place. Dehydrohalogenation takes place. OH will go with H, K will go with Cl. So KCl and water is removed. Obviously, we are going to get a double bond. Further, this alkene, once again it is heated with sodamide. Once again, alkene is undergoing dehydrohalogenation, and then it is going to give rise to an alkyne. So single bond to double bond to triple bond. Now ethylene glycol, no, we are not making use of aqueous KOH. Aqueous KOH, if we make use, ethylene glycol is correct, but here we are making use of alcoholic KOH, so that is not the correct option. So acetylene, ethylene and ethylamine. Ethylene means ethene. Oh no. Ethylamine, no. Here NH2 is there. That's why to make you to get confused, they have given ethylamine. There is no ethylamine formation. There is the formation of ethane. That is nothing but another name for ethane is acetylene. So option B is the correct answer. So here you have to be more careful. Aqueous KOH means Cls are replaced by OH. But here it is alcoholic KOH, dehydrohalogenation takes place. Coming to the question number 40, consider the following statements in the chemical reaction. Okay, so here you have based on this chemical reaction, we have to find out which of the following options are correct. So here MnO2 plus 4HCl gives rise to MnCl2, water and Cl2. Manganese ion is oxidized, manganese is reduced, chloride is oxidized, chloride ion is reduced. Which of these statements are correct? So here in MnO2 manganese carries +4 and here in MnCl2 it carries +2. So I should have written the number anyway, +4 and +2. That means there is a reduction in the oxidation state. So manganese ion is reduced. So it is true. Then what they are saying, manganese ion is oxidized? No, it is wrong, false. Then chloride ion is oxidized. So here the chloride ion oxidation state is -1. Okay, here it is 0. Let me write here 2 also. Let me try. Okay, yeah, and here 4. Yes, this is plus and this is +2. Fine. Now I think it will be clear. See here, +4 to +2 there is a reduction. From -1 to 0 there is an increase in the oxidation state. Don't think that 0 is less. No, -1 is less. So -1 to 0 there is an increase in the oxidation state. That means chloride ion is getting oxidized is correct, but getting reduced is wrong. So if you analyzing what we can see that option 2 and 3 are correct. So option C, here I have written the equation, +1, -1, +2 and 0. Okay, I didn't observe this one. You can see the change in the oxidation state, +4, +2, -1 and 0. So option C is the correct one. Coming to the question number 41. Addition of HBr to 2-methyl propene in presence of benzoyl peroxide gives. Okay, so hydrogen bromide in presence of peroxide. Already we have discussed the addition of hydrogen bromide. In absence of peroxide, we are going to follow Markovnikov's rule. But hydrogen bromide, if it is there, particularly hydrogen bromide, don't apply this rule, this condition for hydrogen chloride or hydrogen iodide. No, only for hydrogen bromide in presence of peroxide. Hydrogen will go to that double bonded carbon which has lesser number of hydrogen, and bromine will go to that carbon which has more number of hydrogen, opposite to Markovnikov's rule. So this is the product you are going to get. Okay, so now according to this, what is going to be the answer? 1-bromo 2-methyl propane. That is option B. Then coming to the question number 42. Bromination of toluene in presence of light gives. Okay, yeah. So whether it is whatever might be the aromatic compound, we carry out halogenation process, but here we have to carefully look at the condition. In presence of light or in presence of aluminum chloride. In presence of light or in presence of Lewis acid. So what they have given here, they have given light. So in presence of light, what happens? This bromine will go and attack this side chain. If it is aluminum chloride, then it will attack the ring. Now since they have given in presence of light, that means it is going to attack the side chain. So we are going to get benzyl bromide. Okay, so option D is the correct answer. Question number 43. When zinc is added to copper sulfate solution, copper is precipitated. This is because of, okay, zinc is added to copper sulfate solution. Let us write the equation first. Zinc, copper sulfate. In place of copper sulfate, zinc is going to get placed and copper will be precipitated. Okay, now. So now, if you observe carefully, here zinc oxidation state is 0 and that of in the zinc sulfate it is +2. Whereas copper sulfate in the copper has got +2 in the beginning, later it is 0. That means zinc is getting oxidized whereas copper is getting reduced. Copper is getting reduced. So there reduction of, because of the reduction of copper, there is going to be the precipitation. Option C. Then identify the extensive properties in the following. This is one of the favorite question and very easy, and also in the textbook they have given very clear explanation about this one. Okay, extensive properties and intensive properties. So coming to the extensive properties, these are the properties which depends on the amount of the substance I have taken, and intensive properties are those which does not depend on the amount of the substance we have taken. So here they have asked for extensive property. So extensive means the one which depends on the amount. So now if you take density, density is an intensive property. Whether you take 1 liter water, 2 liter water or 3 liter water, its density is not going to change, its boiling point is not going to change. Like boiling point of 1 liter of water is 100 degrees Celsius. If I take 2 liter, it is going to be 200? No, it is going to be 100, right? In the same way, intensive property, whatever might be the amount, property is not going to change. That is, density is intensive. Then temperature, just now I gave the explanation, this one explanation regarding boiling point. Whether you take 1 liter of water or 2 liter of water, its temperature, boiling point will remain same. Even when you take the water, 1 liter of water at room temperature and 2 liter of water at room temperature, and if you measure that temperature of the solution or the water, it is going to be remain same. Okay, na? So whereas entropy and enthalpy, it is going to be extensive. ಅಂದರೆ ನಾನು 2 ಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಬರೋ ಎನರ್ಜಿನೇ ಬೇರೆ, 4 ಗ್ರಾಮ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ನಾನು ರಿಯಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಬರೋ ಎನರ್ಜಿನೇ ಬೇರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್. Entropy, it is the degree of the measure of the randomness. So when more and more molecules are present in the system, so obviously entropy is going to be more. It is an extensive property. Now what they have asked? They have asked for extensive property. So I think this one, entropy and enthalpy, option 1 and 3 are the correct answer. So option it has to be D, I think so. Option D is the correct answer. Okay, yeah. Then question number 45. Free energy change and enthalpy change for a reaction is -40 kilojoules and -46 kilojoules at 300 Kelvin. The entropy change in joules per Kelvin per mole is, okay, free energy change. Once they ask this question, and enthalpy. So we know that relation between free energy and enthalpy is given by delta G equals delta H minus T delta S. Very simple problem they have given. So delta H is 46 and delta S is what is that? They have asked for entropy change. Fine. So delta G is 40 and delta H is 46. But be careful here. They have asked in terms of joules per Kelvin per mole. And here we have got in terms of kilojoules. That's why this kilo is converted. This 40 kilojoules is on converting that one to joules, we are going to get 40,000. And 46 kilojoules, we are going to get 46 kilojoules, we are going to get 46,000. On subtraction, we are going to get on substituting, not subtraction, sorry, on substituting, delta S is going to be around -20 kilojoules we are going to get. Okay, so option A, not +20, it is -20. So option D is the correct answer. Now, enthalpy of combustion of benzene is -3250 kilojoules when 0.39 gram of benzene is burnt in excess of oxygen in an open vessel. The amount of heat evolved is, okay. ಸೊ ಎಂಥಾಲ್ಪಿ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಬಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಬೆನ್ಝೀನ್ನ ಕಂಬಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಗಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ 0.39 ಗ್ರಾಮ್ಸಿಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು. ಸೊ 1 mole ಆಫ್ ಬೆನ್ಝೀನ್ ಈಸ್ 78 grams. 78 grams ಕಂಬಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಬಂತೆ 3250. ವೆರಾಸ್ 0.39, how much we are going to get? It's a very direct question. For 78 is this much, how much for 0.39? So on calculations we'll get the answer as 16.25. That is the option B is the correct answer. So thank you. If you have got any further any doubts, if you have got, okay, we will discuss about that one in the next discussion class. Yeah.